it's raising essentially your athletic floor, like the base. Where you start, your zero is higher up than someone else's zero who is not generally conditioned enough. Greetings. You're listening to the RF Fitness Podcast, the show where I yell about fitness, fatherhood, and fantasy gaming, and everything else. But who am I? Why, I'm your host, Rob Finlayson, certified older brother, fitness coach, and a generally prepared person. And I'm here to talk this week about general physical preparedness, or GPP. Now, what the heck is that? GPP is the training method or the training philosophy that I follow both in my own exercise practice and generally speaking with pretty much all of my clients as well. If you are a client listening to this show, thank you. But chances are you are doing GPP with your workout. That is the type of training method, like I said, that I follow and have been following because I think it's very useful. But what I wanted to do this week is to talk about what it is, why I like it, and how to do it. Okay, so GPP, what it is. You know how much I love to define a term, so let's get into it. General physical preparedness, I think, is difficult to define beyond those three words because that really kind of sums up exactly what it is. It's being pretty good at most things. We're talking about like on an athletic spectrum here. It's being pretty good at most things without being the best at any one thing. So specifically with kettlebells, because that's how I like to express general physical preparedness training. It's what kettlebells are best at, right? As a training tool is supporting this training method of generalized athletic development, general physical preparedness. You should take a drink every time I say that. It is the ability to have pretty good endurance, pretty good strength, pretty good balance and coordination. Your cardiovascular well is pretty deep. You got a good gas tank. You got good torque. You're not going to be in the top. You might not, just walking on with friends who do specific sports. You're probably not going to podium in strongman or powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting. Doing GPP by itself isn't necessarily going to, get you in the top 5% of combat athletes or cyclists or rock climbers or marathon runners or anything like that. What GPP is going to be good for is holding you over, making you pretty good, making you a very well-rounded athlete, right? So that when you do decide to pursue something more specific like cycling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you are already conditioned enough where your athletic ability is not going to be the thing that holds you back. That is something I have found for myself with Jiu-Jitsu in my own training. Obviously, as a personal trainer, a fitness professional, I feel that I have to sort of hold myself to a standard of like athletic baseline more so than the quote unquote average person, especially on the mats in the room. Long ago, when I was getting more serious about Jiu-Jitsu, decided that like I will never allow my athleticism to be the thing that holds me back. Like that's not going to be my weakest link. I have lots of weak links when it comes to my jiu-jitsu game, but I don't want it to be that I get tired. I don't want it to be that I'm not strong enough to make a certain type of technique or a certain type of submission like not an option for me. It might not be an option on certain other body types or types of person. If a person is especially large or strong or broad or what have you, certain types of techniques won't work on them, at least not as well. But what I'm saying is I don't want my physical ability to be the stopping point for my progress. I need that to just be skill. And right now it is. I'm not very good at jiu-jitsu, but that's because I don't do it enough, not because I'm not strong enough or I don't have the endurance, I don't have the cardio for it, whatever. That's not what's holding me back. What's holding me back is I'm not able to go to jiu-jitsu as often as I would like to. But that's basically what GPP is good for, right? It's raising essentially your athletic floor, like the base. Where you start, your zero is higher up than someone else's zero who is not generally conditioned enough. So that's what it is. Why I like it, like I already described a little bit, it makes you generally more prepared. I guess you would say you're pretty generally physically prepared for things. I'm not someone who trains my clients for aesthetics. I'm not a bodybuilding coach. I'm not a powerlifting coach. I'm not a sports performance coach. I am a GPP coach, with a little bit of a focus in jiu-jitsu because that's where my personal focus is, right? I like it because it's useful to everyone, right? Everyone can be more physically prepared. Everyone could use the improvements in grip strength and cardiovascular and recovery ability and just the amount of explosive force that you can produce over the course of, let's say, 100 kettlebell swings. No matter what you do, being able to do that will make you better prepared for it. If your sport is, to use the meme, underwater basket weaving, being able to do 100 kettlebell swings in a row will make you better at that, right? If your sport is jiu-jitsu, surprise, being able to do 100 kettlebell swings will make you better at that. If you have a very physical job, if you have what we call in the business a tactical athlete, right? Like a firefighter or a soldier or something like that, being able to do 100 kettlebell swings with heavier and heavier weights will make you very good at that job. You'll be very prepared for that kind of thing. I think that's sort of where I first got really interested in GPP, in general physical preparedness. Take a drink. And specifically kettlebells was when I was first starting working out. That would have been in like 2006 to 2008. I was in college. And the functional fitness, quote unquote, the functional fitness boom was like right around. It was like happening. Like that hill was, as an industry, we were just starting to get to it. Like the first CrossFit Games was in the summer of 2007, right? And if you, listener, know about the CrossFit Games, but you've never done CrossFit, that means it's pretty fucking popular. So you can imagine, and it's popular now. So you can imagine how much space it was taking up in the industry back in 2007 when they did the first one of these, right? And that's when I was first like getting into that is the primordial soup in which I evolved as a fitness person. My training methods, my modalities, my philosophies are a product of my environment at the time, like so many of us are. So what I was getting into at that time was things like martial arts and camping and archery and comic books. So I was reading a lot of like Batman and Green Arrow and Captain America, and a lot of my favorite heroes, like the three I just mentioned, are guys who kind of don't have like quote unquote superpowers. They can't fly, they don't have laser eyes, they're not bulletproof. These are just guys who are done so much insane training and work that they can stand toe to toe with like the Spider-Mans and the Supermans of the fantastical world of illustrated costume superheroes. And I thought that was super duper cool. Like, whoa, like so many other people like, whoa, Batman can do that. He's just a regular guy. Batman is not just a regular guy. He's a bad person. He's a billionaire. There's a whole other conversation about that. Batman is a bad person, but a good character. If you disagree, hit me up to let the internet know how wrong you are. But that's what I like about GPP, is that it helps me to get very prepared for all this stuff. I was looking a lot into the training styles, the physical requirements of a lot of these so-called tactical athletes, like soldiers, like special ops, like Army Rangers. I was really, really interested. I still watch videos about that stuff, like Navy SEALs, that sort of thing, like all this calisthenic stuff, like martial arts. I was getting into like Muay Thai for the first time, like what sort of training does like high-level boxers do? Like what do like classical wrestlers, like Greco-Roman wrestlers, like what kind of training are they doing? And like kettlebells kept coming up, and this GPP thing kept coming up. And a lot of it is that it's like you're not going to be the best at anything. You have to be well-rounded enough to be able to do anything. Like Batman, or let's say a member of a SWAT team we could imagine fairly similar physical demands on their body. They need to be fast. You need to be tough. You need to be strong. You need to be able to like go really, really hard for longer than the average person can, recover faster than the enemy, and then do it again because there's going to be more bad guys. A lot of my training philosophy has centered around bad guys, what to do. Am I more conditioned than them? When I'm working out, when I'm planning my own workouts, when I'm doing my own reps, if when I'm not, when I don't feel like Rob wants to work out, the thing that usually gets me motivated is there's a bad guy out there who is working out. I didn't train today. They did. Some bad guy out there, he's doing the reps. Are you? One of the things that I started doing when I was fighting, when I was a fighter, I had kickboxing matches. When I would train, I would journal what I'm doing. And I would always talk about Tom, T-O-M, the other man. Tom ran a mile 1 minute faster than you did today. Tom did 10 more sit-ups than you did today. Tom hits the bag harder than you can. Tom doesn't rest. Tom doesn't take days off. Tom has his diet locked in at all times, Rob. Do you? So that kept me pretty motivated. I was also a very intense person. I'm still an intense person, I guess. I was also a very intense person during those times. I think that's one of the words people would have used to describe me much more often in my 20s. I think I'm a little bit more mellow now about certain things. I also just can't afford to have that level of obsession because I have 3 jobs, a child and a wife, and a podcast to be on, things like that. Things take over. Things take over. So how do you know when you are doing GPP? How do I know when general physical preparedness is happening to me? Well, there'll be signs. Your aerobic endurance will be improved. If you are doing, it's really interesting, again, because I'm going to approach these examples from a jiu-jitsu perspective, because obviously that's my point of view. It's really interesting to see people who have been doing jiu-jitsu without any kind of physical training. For one thing, that's a bad idea. You will get injured. For a second thing, when you pick it up, the reason I think a lot of grapplers specifically and other combat athletes start strength training is because they want to alleviate or avoid injury. Lots of people don't really start taking resistance training seriously if they're already a martial artist until after they've needed to have a surgery on their shoulder or their knee, and the doctor says, you need to build some muscle. You can't just do jiu-jitsu all the time. Especially when you get to be a higher and higher belt. Jiu-jitsu ceases to be the workout that it once was when you were white belt, blue belt. That is by itself a form of resistance training. That is by itself aerobic training. That is by itself mobility training. Just by doing jiu-jitsu, you are able to reap these benefits from it. But when you get better at it, it takes less energy, but the amount, the mileage it takes on your body is pretty much the same. Right? And to sort of counteract that mileage, you need to have strong tissues. And you get strong tissues by strength training, by resistance training. And there's not really like a sport-specific lifting plan, I think, for jiu-jitsu that's like appropriate for like every lifter. Just like there's not necessarily a sport-specific plan for hiking, for floor hockey, for playing on the playground with your kids harder than other parents can, being faster and better than the other dads. That's what GPP is for and about, So if you are working out kind of basically just to get better at all your different stats, right? Your strength, endurance, flexibility, whatever, conditioning. If you can increase those skill bars, I guess, to use like a video game thing, if you can increase those skill bars like at about an even pace across the board, that's GPP, right? Because we're not super focused on getting the heaviest possible bench press. We're not super focused on running 10 miles as fast as you possibly can. We're running we're running 5 miles faster than you could before. We're doing push-ups with more reps than you could before. We are recovering faster from those activities than you could before. Those are the results of training. Those are the results that we get from intentionally introducing doses of stress in a controlled way over and over again, consistently, repeatedly, with frequency, right? So this is kind of the thing that it rolls into the things I've been saying basically all year. Frequency, frequency, frequency. Be a freak for frequency. And kettlebells are like really uniquely good at this because of the ability to do things like complexes, which I've been talking a lot about in my series lately on density that I put out every Friday morning in my newsletter, The Next Best Move. You get a free workout description in there. And the past couple of weeks have been about these very dense workouts, kettlebell complexes. With a complex, you will get stronger. You will improve your aerobic. Picked up a short-term client. It's kind of a long story, whatever. At one of my other jobs, she usually works with a different trainer on strength training, specifically getting stronger. And in our first session, I was running her through just some basic stuff that I do with most clients to kind of kick the tires a little bit and see where we're at. And she complained probably no less than 6 times that I don't normally do this much cardio. And we weren't doing any cardio. We were doing get-ups. We were doing medicine ball slams. We were doing 2 supersets. I was not saying when we were not doing burpees. We were not on a bike. We were not on a treadmill. We're not doing aerobic specific things. We're doing lots of exercises with a pace and density that made you breathe hard, right? That doesn't mean it's not strength training, because she kept saying I just focus on strength. I normally just focus on strength. That's what we're doing. Are you not using your muscles when you do this? Are your muscles not being challenged? Is this somehow not improving your strength? The answer is no to both of those things. You are using your muscles. You are challenging your systems. You are becoming stronger. That's the point. That's what it is. But we're also challenging your body's ability to move through new ranges of motion. We're also challenging your body's ability to pick up fresh oxygen and bring it to the muscles in the lungs. We're challenging your ability to push that pace, to keep doing things in sequence over and over and over again in a short period of time. She didn't like that. Whatever. I digress. But we were doing GPP. We're doing general physical preparedness. So how do you do it? You get a trainer like me. You get a coach who can help you out with it. But if we're looking for a definition for it, if you're looking for signs, are you doing GPP? Look for the signs. This is going to usually include a training method throughout the week that is not a body part split, or sometimes called a bro split, right? Upper body, lower body, legs, push pull legs, chest and triceps day, back and biceps day, quads and legs day. You don't see that with GPP. That's bodybuilding. That's a different sport. That's a different activity. That's a whole other animal. I've talked about that before. It's not what I do. It's not that it's not worthwhile doing. It's just, again, it's not GPP. It's not what I do. It's not what I'm passionate about, what I know the best, and what I think is most valuable for the most people, right? For you, the listener, for you, my client. So it's not going to be that. Generally, with GPP, we're going to see full body sessions every time. We're going to see multiple sessions a week doing that same thing, twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times, 5 times a week, 5, 6, 7 times a week. It's a ton of muscle group focus. Again, you can be doing GPP and still be doing bench press, right? You can be doing GPP and still time your mile run, right? But it's not like we're doing that thing 3 times a week, right? I guess there'd be a lot more variety, but usually shorter sessions, I have found, because you hit everything, you're just done faster. It's like, oh, well, I guess that's it. It's not like, again, like a PPL, like a push pull legs split, where it's like, oh, I have 80 minutes to spend in the gym here, as an example, because I'm an 22-year-old. I only have these 3 muscle groups I'm working on. I need to really stretch my brain to I guess sort of convince myself that this is what I should be doing in the gym. I don't know. There's a whole deal, but you're really burning the butter, man. You're doing more than you need to. I think there's a point, what do you call it? A point of diminishing returns, right? Where you're doing more than you really need to the point where you're kind of going backwards away from your goal with more effort. You're getting less out for more effort. That's not what we're doing with GPP. We're trying to do the minimal effective dose. I've said that many times about exercise. So, your workouts are probably going to be shorter and more often, right? There's going to be full body. There's going to be strength and conditioning and cardiovascular. There might be a session where you focus on a type of energy system, right? Or a type of movement pattern, power or anaerobic or aerobic, fast twitch versus slow twitch, or pressing versus pulling, which is pretty vague. We start to have, like in my brain, there's so many visuals that make sense to me about this because I've been doing it for so long. It's like, do you have like, if we're not doing like a again, a push-pull leg split, there's like 3 bars on a graph, right? That's your push, your pull, and your legs sessions. In each of those bars, there's so many different exercises and how much effort you put in them. In GPP, there's like 5 or 6 different bars now all of a sudden. In each of those, there's 2 or 3 different bars, right? Exercise selection, I think, goes down, not because there are fewer things to choose from, but I think because there are so many other ways to accomplish what you're already doing, you can afford to really pare down, and that makes for a shorter session. Am I talking in circles? How do you know if you're doing GPP? Just ask me, man. Pick up a kettlebell, you're probably doing it. I think that's it. Very short one today, guys. I just needed to bang out an episode this week. I didn't have one last week. Looking for new guests. I'm really trying to get Rachel back on here, but it's tough, man. It's tough out there. Thank you for listening. This has been the RF Fitness Podcast. Yes, I'm available for online and hybrid coaching. To find out if it's right for you, head to rffitness.net. That's rffitness.net, and then scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to see what kind of coaching I offer. You can do the client application and hit join the party to jump into our community Discord server for free. Our theme music is Funk AF by Everett Almond, distributed by YouTube Studios. Thanks for listening, guys, and as always, keep questing. That's what I should write on the fucking board back there.